Hola mis amigos y bienvenidos a una presentación breve sobre la acentuación en español, lo fundamental. In this presentation, I want to share with you the basic rules that govern the placement of written accents in Spanish. This is such an important topic. Lots of people ask me questions about this in Spanish 101. They say, oh my goodness, how am I going to memorize where to put these written accent marks? How do I know when to leave them off and where to put them? And in Spanish 101, I always have to say to people, well, for now you'll just have to memorize it, which keeps things pretty exciting. The truth is that there are some basic rules in Spanish that govern the placement of written accent marks, and you all are now at the point where you're ready to learn those rules. And I think this can save you a lot of headaches and frustration. I can't even believe that this is the case for me, but no one taught me these rules until my last semester as a Spanish major in my undergrad program. So I think within a few minutes you'll be able to understand why I just about fell on the floor when someone finally told me these rules, and it really did save me a lot of aggravation, and I think it had a big impact on my pronunciation at that time too. So now that you're all excited, rule 1. If a word in Spanish ends in a vowel, N, or S, the spoken stress falls on the second to last syllable. And let's take a moment to talk about what a spoken stress is. You know, every word has a stress somewhere, whether there's a written accent on it or not. You have to stress some part of it. And the way it works in Spanish is that if a word ends in a vowel or N or S, and that's a lot of our words in Spanish if you think about it, then that stress falls on the second to last syllable, as in medicina, hombre, acuestan. Let yourself feel that stress. Medicina, hombre, acuestan. There's no written accent, but that spoken stress is clearly on the second to last syllable. And that is rule number 1. Rule number 2. If a word ends in a consonant other than N or S, and by the way, that's all the other words, if a word ends in a consonant other than N or S, the spoken stress falls on the last syllable, as in final, estudiar, hospital. Let yourself hear and feel that stress, final, estudiar, hospital, etc. And those are the 2 rules. We have rule number 1 that addresses words that end in a vowel or N or S, and we have rule number 2 that addresses all the other words. So, when do we write accents? Because if you noticed on the last 2 slides, there were no written accent marks, which is what I promised to help you learn here. Well, we write in accent marks when we break rules 1 and 2. Think about that for a second. We write in accent marks when we break the rules that I just taught you. So let's start with the word lapiz, for example. Is it a rule 1 word or a rule 2 word? Well, it ends in a Z, which is a consonant other than N or S, so it's a rule 2 word. So the stress should fall on the last syllable. So if the stress fell on the last syllable, we'd say lápiz. But we don't say lápiz, we say lápiz. And therefore we have to write in the accent on the second to last syllable to get lápiz. Let's take a look at the next word, pelicula. It's a rule 1 word because it ends in a vowel, so the stress should fall on the second to last syllable, which would leave us saying película. But that's not what we say. We say película. So the accent mark needs to be written in to get película. Next word, ingles. It ends in a vowel, N or S, so it should be a rule 1 word with the accent falling on the second to last syllable. But that's not how we say it. We don't say English, we say inglés. We have to write in that accent mark since the stress falls on the last syllable. Another example is futbol. It ends in a consonant other than N or S, so it should be a rule 2 word, which would leave us saying football, with the stress on the last syllable. Football is an exciting word, isn't it? It sounds kind of German, but that's not how we say it in Espanol. In Espanol, we break the rule and say football. So the accent mark has to be written in. I encourage you to become really familiar with rules 1 and 2 and look for them in action in your Spanish, whether you're reading or listening or speaking yourself. And if you have questions or think you see contradictions to the rules, you should ask me about those, because those are certainly things that I can explain to you. We also use written accents to clarify meaning and to indicate questioning words. And you've probably dealt with this before, like that we have C and C. Well, the accent mark isn't there for pronunciation because it's one syllable. There's only one way to say C, and that's C. But with an accent mark, it means yes, and without, it means if. With tu and tu, with the accent mark, it means you. Without it, your. And hopefully you've noticed by now that questioning words like que, como, donde, cuando, etc., they all carry an accent mark as well. So you've certainly had some experiences with some of these things, and I hope that this further information will kind of heighten your understanding and your observations. Bien, a little fun. What is la importancia de la tilde? La importancia del acento escrito? Well, it's the difference between el bebé and el bebe. Accent marks mean a lot there. El bebé, the baby. El bebe, he drinks. So you don't want to be misunderstood in saying things like that, but accents really do have a big impact if we're using them correctly and incorrectly. Bueno, so I'm going to give you a little bit of practice with this important skill. I'm going to say 10 words, and I want you to listen to them and write them down, including the written accent when it's necessary. And then you can check yourself on the following slide. So pause and get yourself a piece of paper, get ready, and here we go. Uno, casa. So you're going to write the word casa with or without written accent. Dos, salmón. Dos, salmón. Tres, inspector. Tres, inspector. Cuatro, número. Cuatro, número. Cinco, jugo. Cinco, jugo. Seis, fácil. Seis, fácil. Siete, sábado. Siete, sábado. Ocho, menú. Ocho, menú. Nueve, farmacia. Nueve, farmacia. 10, antipático. 10, antipático. Bien. Then on the next slide, you can check your answers, and I hope you'll find that helpful and enlightening. Buena suerte. For each answer, I've also put a 1 or a 2 beside it to help guide you whether it is a Rule 1 or a Rule 2 word. So you can certainly go back to those beginning slides to review Rule 1 and Rule 2. And as always, let me know if you have questions. Muchas gracias y que tengan un buen día. Hasta luego.